Life with Lex. Today I am going to be talking about that was the worst drum roll ever. I'm going to be talking about things that nobody told me would come with motherhood, okay? So, you know, when you get pregnant, everybody likes to tell you the really great things. Everybody likes to tell you the really great things about motherhood. And obviously I was excited, you know, first baby, oh my god, second baby, you know, it was kind of just like emotions I was going through. But I want to talk about what they did not tell me and what I really feel is like super important to talk about, especially for new moms and even moms to dealing with children. I'm doing a video. So anyways, point number 1. Postpartum hair loss. So, oh my goodness, guys. Okay, we're not doing this. Hey, babe.
Hi.
Hey, babe. Anyway, so number 1, postpartum hair loss. So, after Amelia, I actually started to experience postpartum hair loss really big, like here in my hairline. And the reason why I started to notice it was because I had my dance studio at the time. So for dance practice, I always put my hair up. And I would see like patches of hair just like missing. And I just did not understand why. And it was so like depressing for me. I was so young. Beautiful singing in the back. Anyways, back to scheduled program. So I was missing a lot of hair and I was so depressed because I was so young and I'm like, how is it that I'm this young experiencing hair loss? Nobody told me about this. Nobody. So I was freaking out. I was like, okay, great. And then Gianluca, it was even worse. When I had my son, the second child, even worse, dude. I literally was freaking out. I was like, what is going on? So that's actually why I was starting to get a little bit interested into what I do now with Monet, because they have products that help with supporting to have hair regrowth. But yeah, major key, postpartum hair loss is a real thing. Do not freak out, do not stress, but a mix of all emotions. You're breastfeeding, you have no sleep, you're stressed out. Plus, I guess it's like a hormonal thing that's happening and hair loss happens. It's okay. It's normal. It will come back, especially with good products. So now, second thing is postpartum blues or postpartum depression. So I had heard slightly a little bit about it, but it was kind of brushed over, and I feel like people don't like to talk about it because they feel ashamed or like if it's a wrong or bad thing to experience it. So for example, when I first had my daughter, I definitely had postpartum blues. I was very young when I had my daughter. I was 22. So when I had her, my emotions were everywhere. I was the only one out of my friends who was pregnant or who got pregnant and had a baby so young. You know, I was running my dance studio. I was doing things that I felt like I should be doing later on in my life. And everything of my emotions, like my hormones just hit me. Like I literally would just cry out of nowhere. Like it was stuff that I felt like I just couldn't control no matter what I did. And it was really hard, guys. Like it was really hard and nobody told me about that. Again, no one told me about it. So number 2, if you are experiencing postpartum depression, postpartum blues, it is completely normal. It happens and don't feel bad about it. When Amelia was first born, I literally felt like I didn't have a connection with her. Like I couldn't connect with her. Like I felt really distant from her. And it's weird because what do they tell you?
Oh, my baby, you're gonna be so in love and connected.
And I was definitely in love, but I just couldn't connect with her. I was so stressed out. My hormones were everywhere, like I said. So again, if that's something that you're feeling or experiencing, it's totally normal. And if it's that tough for you, definitely I recommend seeking out help, talking with a friend, talking with somebody, because nobody should go through that alone. So number 3, breastfeeding can be hard. So, oh my God. With Amelia, when I started, you know, the whole breastfeeding journey when she was first born in the hospital, homegirl would not latch. She would not latch, guys. And I was freaking out because I felt like I was doing everything I could to get her to latch, to get her to eat. And when she was born, she actually dropped weight fast because she wouldn't eat. She just kept falling asleep on the boob. And I was like, oh my God, my daughter, I don't know what's gonna happen. So it was a lot. It was so stressful because I felt like, oh, she's just gonna latch and everything's gonna be perfect, because nobody told me that like trouble can happen. You know, you can have infections, there's so many things about being a mom that nobody told me. So when it came to the breastfeeding thing, we actually had to wind up staying, I think it was 2 days more in the hospital, because of the fact that she lost so much weight that we actually had to supplement with formula and breast milk. And then by the time I got home, she was doing fine with breastfeeding. But it was definitely probably the scariest, most traumatic days of my life, because I was freaking out. Like, you know, as a mom, you think about like it's your responsibility to feed, to cover, to protect, you know, to be there for your child. And you know how like they always say like, oh, breastfeeding is the best way, you know, but not everybody can do that, and that's okay. Some people breastfeed for like 2 years. Some people breastfeed for a couple of weeks. Some people breastfeed maybe for 5 months, and everybody's journey is different. But that's okay. And for me, I felt like if I didn't breastfeed long enough or whatever, like I was failing my kid, I wasn't giving them enough nutrients, like, you know, like, because you have those people, I swear to you guys, I remember I posted one time on Instagram, like on a story, and I was just like, oh my God, like, I just want to give up breastfeeding, it's so hard. And I had like 3 or 4 moms message me, and they're like, girl, don't do it. Formula is SHIT. Like, you're gonna, don't, so bad for your baby. Like, don't do it. And I felt so pressured, and I felt so low, because I was like, oh my God, mentally I'm going through it. I know myself that I need to cut the breastfeeding. I know that I need to cut it because I'm getting to a very unhealthy point. Like, it's stressing me out. It's not a good experience. But I felt the pressure, so I just pushed on through. So for my daughter, I breastfed until she was a year old, and then that was it. For my son, he like lived on the boob. When he was first born, he literally, guys, every hour, he was eating. Every single hour. Do you know how exhausting that is? Nobody told me how exhausting breastfeeding is. They're like, oh, it's this beautiful thing of you bonding with your baby. And yes, there are definitely beautiful bonding moments, but let's be real. It's not always that beautiful. It is sometimes so exhausting. It can get so hard. So with Gianluca, he was so attached to me, and like that whole thing that they talk about, like, you know, mother-son bond, like, it's real. He was so attached to me, wanted to be on the boob to go to sleep, like breastfeed all the time. Like, he could not be with anybody else but me, which is really hard because at the time, again, I was running my dance studio, so I was at the studio almost like 3 to 4 nights a week teaching or whatever, and that was like during his bedtime. So it was definitely a tough time. But I pushed through, and I decided to stop breastfeeding him. I think it was at 8 months. At 8 months, I decided to stop breastfeeding him. Number one, because of his allergies. He's actually super allergic, so my diet just wasn't good enough to keep out all of his allergens. So I just had to cut it. I had to get him that super freaking expensive formula, and he is doing so well and so healthy and so smart. So I am so happy that I did that, and I didn't like allow myself to guilt and, you know, push through when I didn't need to. But yeah, like, it can be very difficult. It can be so difficult. So I am thankful to the Lord in heaven that, you know, I definitely had support throughout all of this. I definitely had friends to lean on, you know, moms to lean on. I literally was calling my mom every single second for every single thing that I talked about. Hair loss, postpartum depression, and breastfeeding. I was like, but my poor mom. But it was definitely needed because, guys, being a mom is not easy. It is probably the hardest job you will ever have in your life. So if you are struggling and you feel like the world is about to drop, I promise you, push through and get help. There are tons of people and resources that you can get to help push you through, because more than anything, we have to keep our mental strong. You know, it can be weakening sometimes, you know, with everything that we go through as moms. So 110%, do whatever it is that you have to do to keep that mental up, to be there for your babies. So stay tuned for part 2 next week, and I'm going to be sharing the next 3 things that I did not know